Welcome back, coaches. This is the Football Coaching Podcast. I am Daniel Chamberlain, co-host, here with Joe Daniel, as always.
What's up, Coach?
Well, we're going into week 10 here, Coach, and we have an opportunity to make the playoffs if we win this game. I realize this probably comes out a week or two after, probably 1 week after we play the game. So You guys probably will have seen it on my Twitter by now, whether we want it or not. It's weird for me because it's my alma mater. So if we're not going to knock, they're in the playoffs no matter what. If we beat them, that will give us a tie with them. And I think we get in third and they get in fourth. I don't know. I can't remember. I looked at the points today and did all this stuff. But point is, we win and we're in, and we're pretty high seed. If we lose, we're out. So there's no sneaking in the fourth seed for us this year, just because of the whole league, our whole district is 3-3 or 4-2. So it's like we're 3-3. We go beat somebody, then we're 4-3, and so are they. And a lot of the other guys are in the same boat. So going to be a lot of 4-3 teams. There's like one group at the top that's undefeated, but everyone else that we've just kind of beaten each other. So
yeah,
makes for a wild year. It tests the state's tiebreakers because it's going to be one giant tie. So it should be good.
Yeah, we don't, because of the PowerPoints and everything, we don't usually have a lot of ties, but it happens. It'll happen for seeding sometimes. I think it just goes to head-to-heads and stuff. But, your PowerPoints come out to pretty random, 19.886. And it's like, well, the other team usually doesn't have 19.886. It's really just it's the number of games you play divided by your total. The total points divided by the number of games you play is your score. But usually there's so many factors in place that we usually don't have ties.
Right.
That at least is not a issue, but it happens. We have tiebreakers in place.
Yeah. So, playoff season is a special season because, dude, anything can happen. We have the few teams who are kind of expected to win it all. And we've talked about on here, there's always a shock the world night just waiting to happen. So pretty excited to get in, see if we can't cause some chaos. We've really shot ourselves in the foot in multiple very winnable games this year. And it's the teams that have no chance to get in is the ones that have beaten us. And so I know the potential's there. So it's just like getting it all together on the right night, which that's what the playoffs is all about, right? Who can get hot and stay hot. So get in, get hot, get a victory. That's what we're trying to do. Go ahead and knock our power minute out. Tonight, we're talking about simplifying defensive shifts. I'm sure you guys read the title. We're talking about how to adjust to shifts and motions. Obviously, not something everyone is great at. We've played some teams this year that their choice was no adjustment. And if you can take advantage of that, that's a great thing for the offense. Some guys just do it their way. So we're going to talk about simplifying those defensive shifts, complete defensive system. So number one, starting with that, having a complete defensive system to handle all these things, installing your adjustments, how to install them so that your kids can remember them and put them into action on Friday night, and then drilling players on adjustment communication. So not just the X's and O's of how does each adjustment work, but also the kids talking through it and executing on game night. So it should be a great episode. Last week, we talked about how to coach your team to handle adversity. And next week, we're going to kind of dip right back into that. And we're talking leadership. So how are we going to increase leadership for our teams on the field? Real quick, guys, before we jump in, I've got one small favor. This podcast has helped you even once. Please help us reach the next coach. Share the link, put it in a group chat, an email, social media, however you do it. Please do share. It does matter to us as we're always trying to get to new coaches. Joe, we can pay the bills, man, then we'll jump in the conversation.
Yeah, I've been posting more on the website, so we're going to check out the blog, but I do want to talk about the Ultimate Defensive System Guide as people are coming out of the season. The guide to building your ultimate defensive system is a short guide we put together, and if your defense felt disorganized, or if some of the things that we talk about tonight with shifts and adjustments and really just it wasn't in that coach simple, everything wasn't where it was supposed to be. The first step is to get your defensive system under control. And the first step to that is to go get the free guide that I have at joedanielfootball.com/system. It's called What You Need to Know to Build Your Ultimate defensive football coaching system. And it's a guide that basically put together a blueprint for building the ultimate defensive system for your football team, to simplify your playbook, to get your players to buy in. I think that as Daniel was talking about the playoffs and the opportunity to knock somebody off that you weren't supposed to,
For sure.
what I've seen over and over and over again is that is all about buy-in and belief. And it is rarely ever about scheme. It is your players showing up, knowing what to do, knowing how to do it. Maybe they catch a better team on an off night or looking past you. Maybe they just out execute that team. Maybe they just pull it all together because you've been focused all season long and you haven't changed it up every single time something didn't work. You've stayed the course and you have control of your defensive system. And if you do that, you have the opportunity to have those shock the world moments, those moments where everybody's bought in, everybody believes, and things fall right. Con Chase, who, with our last Cover 3 episode was with Con. Con does some of our game film analysis for our platinum clients. Con had a great story at his school a couple stops ago. They were 0-6. They hadn't won a game. It was a formerly successful program that had fallen on hard times and went in and shocked the world. I mean, literally shocked the world, beating the number one team. I want to say they beat them 21-20 or something like that. In like week 7, he was the coach of the week and they were the team of the week and all this sort of stuff. And Con with that school ran a very vanilla, I would say, from the playbook standpoint, 4-2-5 defense, cover 3, but stuck to the principles. Part of what helped Con do that is he had already done this at another school. He knew the system worked. He had that belief in the system. But I think, and I know he thinks too, that one of the biggest things is that they came in and they weren't trying to execute some special scheme. They weren't trying to be who they weren't. They believed in what they were doing and they shocked the world. And that's how you make something like that happen. So build your ultimate defensive system. Go get your free guide right now at joedanielfootball.com/system. Build that confidence and just turn your football program around.
I want to talk about athletic speed and movement, but in a little bit different way. I know if you don't know what it's about, look, it's a 12-week program. You're going to go twice a week. Your kids are going to get faster. We guarantee it. Okay. You need to jump into athletic speed and movement sooner than later so that when January rolls around, you understand the system and can go put in. We got a little PDF guide. You print it out. It shows you what drills you're doing, what days. It shows you how to lay out the drill for that day, where your eyes should be. It's wonderful. It's a great system. Jump in. But what I really want to talk about is the fact that it is now a part of the Joe Daniel Football website. So go to joedanielfootball.com and there's a link there to get, I think it's /speed is what we discussed last time. But there's a little thing at the bottom of the screen that says speed training or whatever it is. But more than that, the whole joedanielfootball.com family, okay? Some of you guys are finishing up your first year right now. You're not in the playoffs. Your team's struggling. Maybe you're a first-year assistant coach. Maybe like me, I was a very first-year coach that got bumped up to a defensive coordinator. That's how I found Joe's system, was because I needed a system. I had nothing. I had a coach trying to teach me 4-3, but we were not really pairing it well with coverages. We then went to a 4-4 because it was simplified and we just looked like a 4x4 box out there and we didn't make adjustments all year. I had to have answers. What I found when I jumped into Joe Daniel football was years and years of experience so quickly. In just my first year, I did what everybody does. I needed to overcomplicate things to look smart. I tried to run split field quarters my second year as a DC. My first year installing my own system, fell flat on my face, lost my job. Since then, I have just basically been an analyst and helped people. I did coordinated also as well and for the freshman team, but I have started that simplification, the maturity that leads to, man, maybe we just need to run old country cover 3, right? So everybody starts chaotic and they need to have the super complex thing to outsmart every other coach in the room. And I've found you don't have to do that. But what you gain with Joe Daniel is that 10 years of experience and probably 2 or 3 years. If you get in, you watch the videos, you study the systems, you're going to know so much more fundamentally about football than the next guy, because he's had to pick up one little Oh, we should have known that last year, moment at a time. Athletic speed movement is just another piece of that. If you're looking for, if you have to ask yourself, how do you get faster? And no one in your office really knows, or everyone says, we got to do A skips, B skips, and C skips. They're wrong. That's not the way to get fast. So jump over to johnnyunderfootball.com/speed, or go down the bottom and look up the speed training, get to the athletic speed movement portion, sign up. But while you're there, sign up for Joe Daniel Football. I promise you, you're a new guy. Just get the base level. You don't need to send in your game film. That's not going to help you right now. You need to learn fundamentals. Get the base level for now. But get in, watch the videos, learn the fundamentals of ball, and it doesn't matter what system you're in. If you're a 3-4 guy, 4-3, 4-4, I don't care. 4-2-5, the videos will help. And having a good fundamental understanding of football will help you regardless of where you are now, regardless of where you end up. Sweet. Let's do the thing here. So we're talking tonight about handling shifts and motions. And I love what you said. And you said you stole it from some coach, but there's like 5 ways to handle shifts and motions, right? Do you remember them all? What are they?
Well, that's unbalanced. So
okay. So, well, and I mean, I guess the reason that sticks in my head is because generally shifts and motions create something unbalanced. You're either 2x2 shifting to 3x1, or they're shifting your defense out of what you thought it was originally. So handling that shift or motion, yes, I guess, breaking the huddle and just running up in an unbalanced formation is indeed different. But realistically, now we're just breaking the huddle into something less unbalanced and then shifting over to it, right? So
it's it still applies. I mean, essentially, I'll just real quick because I don't want to do the thing where somebody's sitting there going, "Tell me the thing."
Tell me the thing.
I stole it from Roger Holmes, who then I wrote an article about it or something, or talked about it on a podcast and said, this was what Roger Holmes said in a clinic, and it was in a Glacier clinic. And I said, that was all I talked about. And apparently somebody told Roger Holmes that I was stealing all of his stuff and publishing it as my own, which he called me. And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, man. It says right on there, Roger Holmes said this in a clinic, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's it. Like, I don't think this is something right. I mean, Roger Holmes said it in a clinic. I don't know if he invented it. Right. Maybe he did. Roger runs we had a nice conversation. It was, he's fine. At the end of the conversation, I didn't have to take anything down. I had broken no rules. And I believe some of his wing tee stuff is available at allaccesscoaching.com or .net with Rick Stewart. So just there's another Roger Holmes plug. So I'm still doing it. But essentially the 5 ways to defend unbalanced is you can do nothing. It means no adjustment. You line up like it's not unbalanced. You line up, essentially the center is still the center. The guy with the ball is still the center. You do nothing. You can move one man over. So for example, if you get a twins formation with a nub tight end, like a pro twins, you would move one man over if you just flip the corner. So if you flip your nub side corner over, that's move one man. You can move the entire defense over one man, which is kind of the standard adjustment to your just tackle over type stuff. Or you can move just the defensive line and leave the linebackers where, lined up where they would be if the center was always the center. Or you can move just the linebackers, but leave the defensive line where they are. So again, it's 5 things. Do nothing, move one man, move everybody over one man, move just the defensive line, or move just the linebackers. So I didn't want to leave that hanging. It's probably a whole different episode on unbalance. We've maybe even done that episode. I have no idea, but go ahead. We actually had this question on Chalk Talk. Our last in-season Chalk Talk Q&A was this Monday as we're recording it. And I had a question about this. I think a team was going into their first round playoff game, maybe. And it was kind of one of those talks where it was like, they do a lot of stuff. If I remember right, it was something along the lines of, as long as we can get lined up, we can stop them. And so the very simple answer is, and this is a universal answer. There's some really simple universal truths in adjusting your defense. If they are complex, you should be simple.
I said that last week.
Yeah.
Last week I said that.
If they are simple, you can be complex. You don't have to be, but if they are simple, you can be complex. In other words, if they want to stay in the same thing all the time, you can give them different looks to try to force them out of it. Don't let them just line up and tee off on you in the thing that they are used to doing all week. But if they are complex, you want to be simple, because Some teams, this is not true. Obviously, Bixby is a great example. Bixby has complex shifts and motions, and they're very good. Now, part of their very good is the complex shifts and motions, but they could line up and beat most teams, right? All the shifts and motions. Probably, I don't know the schedule exactly, but there's some games where they're just practicing the shifts and motions. They could line up, but most teams are doing smoke and mirrors. They need that advantage to line up and beat you. And obviously Bixby has games where they need that advantage to feel, over the last 9 state championships or however many they've had in that run.
Geez, I think they're 10 out of 11 now or something.
Yeah. So, and there are some of those games where they needed that element to win, I'm sure. Probably less than,
Yeah, their very last state championship, they won it on the last play of the game. Like,
right. And so being in that game, that element mattered to them. So, but the thing is, if they're complex, you want to you want to see, can we just adjust to this stuff and line up and play ball, especially if you think you're better than them. That was kind of the point here, is that, hey, if they just lined up and we just lined up, we'd be fine. And so there comes the simple answer of, you have to make your entire game plan around, can we just line up? And really your entire system, that's what we're going to talk about, is your entire system needs to be lined up to that. And again, there's simple rules that come in here, one of which is, if they're, when we talk about offensively, if we have a balanced defense, we try to go unbalanced. If we have when I say unbalanced, I mean numbers wise, we might go 7 and 4 instead of 6 and 5 to each side of the ball on our count, to a balanced defense. Whereas to an unbalanced defense, we want to balance them up. We want to force them to. So, a rotated safety defense, we want to go balanced because it's going to open up the weak side and that kind of stuff. So there's basic rules in there of how you want to handle things. You want to match numbers and all of that. But really the core of this whole talk is, if you have teams doing a lot of shifts and motions, number one, it's got to be built in your system. But number two, if they're doing a lot of it, it should limit your game plan. And that's not a bad thing.
So you're talking about having this complete defensive system and how to handle all these shifts and motions. And I literally we just played a team that was very similar to us offensively. And it's been said that they are fanatics of the Bixby system. So they've copycatted it. I mean, obviously the guy that I work with coached there, so he learned it from the source, but they've reverse engineered it and never spoke to them. So it's been a very weird thing, but they're a shift for motion or an unbalance on every snap of the football. And so that was the thing I said exactly in our defensive meetings last week was, hey, they're going to be super complex. So let's just make each piece a bucket or bracket it or however you want to say it, and just handle that very simply. Are they tight end wing? Have an answer for that. Don't worry about all the other chaos, right? If they want to be unbalanced with alignment, have an answer for that. Anyway, but all that comes down to the system, right? Our system is a complete system, so we do have those answers. Something I've always carried is, like, if you have a condensed edge, I flip my outside corner and the safety on that side. So my safety goes and plays outside, and my corner plays back over the top at 8 yards. Why? Well, because I don't want my corner in a position to force to a tight end wing edge or any condensed edge. And I've lived in the base cover 3 world for a long time now. So that corner is just going to the deep third anyway. So just let him play over the top 8 yards. It doesn't affect anything. And now we have a forcing player outside of the formation. But if you can take little things like that and make it part of your complete system, to trips, we always want to bust number 2. To bunches, we always want somebody in their face to try to, play through the point man to get to where everyone's trying to send somebody on a bubble, right? These very simple things make your defense. It's like the fundamentals, right? You build the pillars. I think it's the same thing we have to have for shifts and motions. And I think really you're just trying to limit the chaos, right? We talked in the last part, we're going to talk about drilling your players on that adjustment communication. But I don't need a ton of communication. It just needs to be second nature, right? Oh, hey, the wide receiver's shifting over. great. Or hey, all he did was shift in. And we just have a single answer to it, maybe a couple, because people are gonna find out what you do and then have a counter to it. But a very simple response to what you're seeing, and that should be a part of your system.
The key is that at least the base response needs to be cooked into your system from day one. And whether you teach it on day one, it's known. And when it shows up, you say, okay, this is how we handle this. It's built in, it's cooked into the system. This is why I always get, whenever new coaches sign up for JDFB, you fill out your kickoff registration. It tells us about your program, and you go into our Coach Simple process. And the first thing we do is we create a kickoff diagnostic. It's a 35-point diagnostic that tells you kind of an overall star rating for your program and breaks it down to 7 categories and gives you a kind of synopsis of each one of those categories based on what you've told us. Usually, not, it's not going to be something that shocks you, but you might be surprised at the number, where you're at sometimes, because you haven't done 500, 600, 700 of these, where we have a pretty good indication of what your program is like right now. You might think you're 4 out of 5 stars, and we've seen 4 out of 5 stars is really, really good. If you think about it in a win total, that's an 8-9 win team, right? It's just math. So we do that, and one of the things that I look for in that kickoff registration, because the second phase is I do a personalized roadmap to victory video where I tell you the quick start things that you can do for your program. I usually answer a couple questions that you have in there and get you started on that before we do a one-on-one coach call. That's the third phase of this. That video, I always look for the red flags so that I can go ahead and tell you, if this is your intention, this is not going to work with what we do. So you can go ahead and you can either, a lot of times it's a lack of knowing. New coaches think I'm going to make this is what I'm working on, creating a system. That's a huge mistake, massive mistake,
especially early, right?
There's too much to know. I promise you, everyone in football who starts by, you just talked about it, coached on Bixby staff, knew the Bixby stuff. Now it's trying to reverse engineer the Bixby stuff. Doesn't look like Bixby, right? The idea is there, but it's evolved. It has to. You pick up things, you pick up ideas, and you incorporate them. But when you start out having that system already done, if you don't do that and you're trying to create your system, then the first time somebody does a tight end shift and you go, all right, now I've got to create an answer to a tight end shift. Our answer is a heavy check. It's already built in. Tight end shift. So the rule is, and this is just a really simple example, the rule is 100% of the time, this is 4-2-5 system or 4-3 system, the will backer, even fronts. The will backer has one thing to look for. He has one thing. We get into this in our communications later on. The will backer's only job pre-snap. Now, as soon as the snap is over, he's the guy who's supposed to check down and distance. Let us know the situation. Everybody know, hey, it's 3rd and 7. Okay. Now, once that's out, that should be all done well before they get out of the huddle or get up to the line or whatever. All you got to do is pop up and look at the sticks. Then his only job, his only thing that he has to worry about from that point is if there is a tight end on my side, I say heavy, heavy. And then I make sure that the tackle moves to a 2-eye if he's not already in a 2-eye, and that the weak side end moves to a 6-eye inside shade of that tight end. Because he stays in a 5, it's too easy to down block him, collapse the edge, create a gigantic alley. We can't have that. So we play inside shade of him. Usually because our weekends are not equipped to be strong ends playing a 6 technique head up like our strong ends might sometimes do. They don't always. So we play a heavy check. So it doesn't matter how you get there. It doesn't matter if you if you do a tight end trade. It doesn't matter if you do what we call travel, which is a tight end wing. We have the same adjustment. We flip the tight end and the wing over. It really, depending on how tight it is, doesn't matter if you go to a bunch. I'll do the same thing. It doesn't, depending on how tight. If it's wider, then we're just going to stay in a 5. That's a divider rule type of thing. It's usually around. In fact, we had this discussion. It's usually around 3 yards because that's about. And the coach who asked the question about that one had a great rule. He said 3 steps, and I said this is exactly right because he has 3 steps to close down that gap if he gets a down block. And so 3 steps, which is going to be about 3 yards. And he said, well, they don't know how what yards is. I said, you're absolutely right. None of, I mean, I step it off. Like I have to step off to 2 yards, 3 yards, 10 yards, whatever. If field's not lined. So 3 steps is a great rule. And it's also becomes a feel thing, but that's the basic rule. And that's the basic, that's built in, that's cooked in. It's cooked in from day one. So the first time that we get a double tight formation, or it doesn't matter if it could be 2 tights, it can be a trade, it can be anything. If a tight end shows up, the will backer's only job is if there's a tight end on my side, heavy. It's really important because if you have a weak side end who's always lined up outside shade of the end man, they will go line up outside shade of the tight end, and you have
Hallelujah.
a 1 and a 9.
Yes, they will. I've been there.
So
It's unfortunate.
this has to be cooked into your system. And if you are having to, your trips checks are built into the system, and so you have a call. So for example, our base trips check is a check roll, quarter, half. They motion to trips, we check roll. If they line up in trips, we check roll. If they're in trips and they motion back or shift into a balanced formation, a non 3x1 formation, we check back to the coverage called. You have to practice that, by the way, because as soon as this is the hardest thing for kids to do is to check. I love to line up an empty because everybody has an empty check and then shift back to just a base formation because everybody has an empty check. They check out of it. They check out of their base call. You move back to a base formation and they have no clue what the original call was, right? So you have to work this stuff. And that's why I say, if you're going to be, and I know we're getting into the practicing this stuff, but if they are going to be complex, you have to be simple because you have to be able to make 2 checks on a play. Now, motions don't usually require a lot of checking. It's shifts that require a lot of checking. Motioning a single guy, if motioning a single guy causes you to check anything more than, like I said, we check to a quarter, we check to a check roll, quarter, half on motion and trips. That's about it. There's not much else that we have to check motion for. I'll just add, you have to be able to check those things in and out. They need to be installed early. And I'll just add one other thing onto that. If you are overreacting, because remember who can motion. Shifts, you have time. They shift and they have to set. And then if you are overreacting to backfield alignments, all those guys can motion around and you get all sorts of stuff. And, you get the back doing this thing and he's going like 8 feet and you're like checking it because the back's on the left, the back's on the right. Don't overreact to backfield alignments. I don't even tag backfield alignments unless I get the feeling that there is a tendency based on the backfield alignment. So if I start seeing specific backfield alignment tendencies and stuff, then I start to look at backfield. But backfield alignments are one of the most overrated things there is. What matters is the blocking scheme. And if there's 5 guys up front or a 6th guy on the right or a 6th guy on the left, if there is a 7th guy as a double tight end or as an H-back, as a tight end wing set, that matters. Your secondary should have no problem adjusting to just about anything with receivers. So really what you're talking about is adjustments to 1 tight end, 2 tight end wing, tight end. Backfield.
Extra gaps, right? When you get extra running gaps.
Exactly. What creates more gaps? What brings in extra run blockers? And by the way, we play a lot of wing tees where we'll play wing tees. We play different fronts where they will try to do this stuff, and one of their wings is not a blocker. Sometimes one of their tight ends is not a blocker. I don't care about him. Like, if that wing can't block, if he hasn't shown, if he's always doing routes and stuff, if he's always going, I don't care about him. He doesn't matter to me. I don't wing tees, running orbit motions and all that sort of stuff. Go ahead. Go ahead, because I know you have built in. Okay, I do this stuff. Why do we? And I love guys. How do we do this? The H back goes over. Should we slide with the H back? I'm like, at least I know that you're focused on only the defensive side, and you're not dabbling and watching the pistol power offense system, because that's what we do. And I talk about it all the time. If I can motion that H back and get you to slide with him, it's like, yes, here we go. I just messed you up. I counter, I can do this, do that. It's like everything's great. I want to get you to move with all of this stuff. So when you guys are overreacting to backfield things, it's just that's not a good thing. It better be a strong tendency and not one based off of motions and stuff, because you can orbit motion and all this stuff and they go all over the place.
I love to hear your ideas there, because I do hyperfixate on backfield alignments to get like, near and far and all that stuff. But it all came down to like two things. If they're stacked, we expect GH. If they're opposite of each other, I expect power. Once I got it down to that, you can, obviously you can quit worrying. However, being a part of our current system has made me real, like we line up in the pistol and then slide a half slide every play.
Yeah.
The base system is you slide away from the direction you're going to run the ball. So if you're going power left, you slide right. And then our first tag is same side. So now you slide to the same side and just get downhill. So yes, I have been taught through my offensive studies that it doesn't matter. And then as a defensive guy, I learned to put it in buckets and categories. And so we teach some things to pre-wire linebackers' brains, but
yeah, if you get a strong tendency, that's one thing. But if you have it built into your system, I know some people have it built into their system that the strength is based off the set of the back.
Right.
The set of the back is about the easiest thing to change. The set of the back changes. You watch most games, the set of the back changes about 5 times because the back lined up on the wrong side.
Right.
And the quarterback's like, get over here.
You're on the other side.
And it's like, now your strength is wrong 5 times.
I love it.
That's not even them trying to mess you up. They're just doing it on their own.
Getting into the second part here, Joe, we're talking about installing our adjustments. We've both mentioned it now. This needs to be, if not day one, pretty darn quick. Your day one defense should be base enough anyways that you can handle, hey, what if we think it's this, and then they shift over into this, or they send in motion. Because jet sweep is one of the most commonly ran motions. They don't always run it. Sometimes it's power read. Sometimes it's the actual handing off the jet. You talked about orbits and all that stuff. But getting a speedy guy in motion headed to the edge of the defense is pretty common. And I'm sure it is everywhere, not just in my region. So you better be, I think you need to be able to defend that day one, whatever your version of defending that's going to be. Now, once again, if you've got backers sliding all over there and stuff, you're probably wrong.
Like that's kind of adjustment to me. No adjustment.
No
that's
adjustment,
we teach them.
Right?
No
because
I've already got a now the free safety will slide. That's the only adjustment. Free safety will slide, but the back is where is jet sweep handed off? He's still in the backfield. He's still in the back. So I've already got a 5x5 or over to the slot or whatever. I've already got a guy out wide to force, and it's coming straight to him. I just need the free safety to slide to fill the alley, but that's a no adjustment. But that's built into our system, because what does everybody expect to do? Slide, move, do all this stuff. Yeah.
So yeah, getting those installs done very early, I think it should be a base part. Look, you don't have to cover it all though, right? Like, I mean, we do tight end wing trade a lot, right? We're going to shift them from one side to the other. There's a ton of minutia that goes into that. Understanding that now one of those guys is covered up because they just went from 2x2 to a 4x0 formation or whatever that looks like. I don't need kids to know that right now, right? We need to worry about that game plan wise. We just want to make sure that we're fitting all the gaps. Our umbrella still fits the formation we're seeing. Don't worry about who's snapping the football. That doesn't matter to us. A lineman's a lineman's a lineman. So that's kind of, when you start talking about installing your adjustments, I think get the bases out of the way early. And then if you need to create anything else later, right? If you start talking, well, now we've called a weird blitz and it's gonna hit weird, or we're gonna be super outnumbered. Well, maybe you need to talk about changing that. If you're gonna roll coverage, And now they just, motion the wide receiver out of the spot that you were rolling down into the flats. Well, maybe you don't need to roll over there anymore. But that's stuff you can kind of handle later. Getting those base ones installed early, I think, are the most important.
I think with the blitzes, we have our Tiger Cat blitz that everything is built into that, which is great. That's a blitz that you can run against literally anything. You never have to check it. And so if I want to have control of blitzing, I would call Tiger Cat. I know I'm going to get a 6-man, maybe 7, maybe 8-man pressure, depending on your alignment, depending on your formation. But and I've done it, such an effort to, like, they're not going to tell us what to do. They're not going to dictate to us. And so we're going to force this blitz to run no matter how complicated it is and no matter how wonky the end result is. We run into this with the 4-2-5 system. I always talk about, our smoke strong smoke weak, where we blitz the strong safety off the edge. And I said, look, it has to be cover 0. No, we run it as a cover 1, or we run it as a cover 3, and we drop the wheel backer to the far flat. It's like, okay, you've really, like, he's a hook curl flat dropper. I'm like, you've gone so far out of your way to do what you want to do that you've really weakened the defense.
Right.
And so what I always tell them is just line up in a different formation. Line up in a 4-3, and you can blitz them forever you want. It's just a formation. But don't do this thing where you just, like, force, or you'll get a shift, and like, this is my favorite one, is the 3 under 2 deep coverages and stuff. Like, you can't cover the field that way. Just run man. Like, you're matching everything, and you're not passing guys off. You don't normally match. I mean, I know that some teams do it, and if it works for you, great. But, like, in general, it's just like a lot of guys are overcomplicating things. And it's like, if they do something and your kids have to say 17 different things and check the blitz to a different guy and check the coverage and check 9 different things to make this blitz work, just check the base. Don't worry about them dictating to you. The best thing that you can ever say to your defense is, when you are good enough at your base defense and your base calls, when you are good enough to just say, here's what they run, we are going to do what we do. And we really don't care about all this stuff, because the adjustments to all of it is baked into our system. We're great in our base. We spill. I have many coaches. I've got one that's just in my head, and I was probably harsh on a game film analysis, because the scheme was very complex. The technique totally lacked in fundamentals. And so you spend a lot of time trying to be overly chess match creative in your game plan, and you suck in base. And you want to be able, especially these teams. Look, I think I'm gonna drop it after this. I run all this stuff. Daniel, you run all this stuff. We do all the shifts and all the motions and all that stuff. And there's a point where your guys start to get it. But the reality is, especially when you just start doing it, it seems simple to us, all of the shifts and all of the motions and all that sort of stuff. Bill Mountjoy said this all the time. And he would talk about how many formations you have in a game plan and how many things you do. That the play is not the same to them if the tight end's on the right or the left. If you go, well, it's still just inside zone. And it's like, yeah, but all of a sudden the tight end comes over and stand next to the tackle, and they've got to figure out their combo. And all of a sudden the H-back standing on the other side, and you say, hey, don't worry about it. You just go block the 4. And he's like, I can't even count to 4. He told me all I had to do was count to 3 to play this position. And all of a sudden I got to count to 4. And you're telling me to go block the force, and I've never had to block the force before. I've always just blocked the defensive end, or always just blocked the guy in front of me usually. And you just told me good job, and I didn't count. I haven't counted in forever. Now I'm out here, and it's like the play changes. They'll generally figure it out. It'll be okay, and we talk about that in our system. But the play changes for them. So, and I've watched Bixby. Their execution is far from flawless. Far from flawless. Okay. And they're the best at it. So if you can line up and be flawless in your execution at all of the stuff, and just not ignore, but comfortably, casually check it and make your adjustments and line up and play it, you are so far ahead of them, because all of that stuff, if it wasn't to get you out of alignment and in bad spots or get you moving and playing uncomfortably, they wouldn't do it. They would just line up and go. The worst thing that you can do to them is casually check it. And I remember playing one of the best teams we played. They were in a 3-3 stack, and we did our shift over and shifting in an unbalance. We did our shifts and we did our trades and everything, and they would just casually check it, and they would just stop us. And nobody else could do that. They were disciplined. They were well taught. It was in their system. They just casually checked it, and they were very, very, very good as well. And so when they could just line up like it was base, didn't work anymore.
Yeah, that's, running all the shifts in motion. That's what we're looking for, is just the guys who lose the fundamentals. You know what I mean? If you can't keep numbers, if your kids freak out and they over-adjust or don't adjust, or right, if I can get 2 offensive linemen outside your defensive end, we're going to have some pretty fun plays tonight.
Yeah, your force guy runs with motion, that kind of stuff. Like, yeah.
Yeah. And I've been there, dude. I had to talk about being in the box going, stop running man.
Yeah, what is that guy doing?
Our kids don't understand. They're just motioning him away and running there, right? So, yeah, there's super simple things on a defense that,
by the way, don't run with
freak
motion
out about. And I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Don't run with motion. But we say, that's your
kids
guy.
go out there and run with motion, and you're like,
what? Yes.
And he's the moment.
But the kids will panic. And so, yes, to the offensive guy, that play changed, and the defensive guy, that play changed. They can't comprehend anymore. This is just power. I'm just defending power.
So it's whichever one can get back to, it's just basic studs. Football is not that complicated. So the faster you can get back to, this is just, base, the better you are.
For sure. Let's jump to this last part here, drilling players on the adjustment communication. So how are we doing that, Joe?
We had so I'll talk 2 different things here. One is in your practice planning, and schedule more time against the teams to do more shifts and motions. We can say all you need to do is adjust, but it does take practice. It does take work. You have to work. Okay, they came out. We called over, which doesn't matter. We called over cover 1. They came out in empty. We checked our empty check, which is Tiger Cat. They shifted back to base, like we would shift back to like just a regular pro 2 formation, which is a tight end to one side and a wing to the other side, 1 back formation, 2x2, tight end wing, tight end one side, wing to the other side. And okay, do we stay Tiger Cat? Do we check back to over 1? Do we check to over cover 3 because it's easier, and we're not going to be able to get into a press alignment from here, and we don't like playing man coverage from non-press alignment? Some teams do, some teams don't. Just depends. So you have to have that plan of, are we going to check once? Are we going to check twice? Are we going to check, what are we going to check into? Is our empty check so complex that we can't run it now? Like I've always thought, when we check roll and they motion back to something else, like the easiest thing to do is just play cover 3.
Yeah.
It's not ideal, but it's the easiest. The second best thing is to just play cover 1. The third best thing is to just play cover 0 and blitz, and make sure we got everybody covered. So, maybe the second check is always Tiger Cat. I don't know. What's the best thing for you? So you have to work that. So you have to work in alignment adjustment periods, formation adjustment periods. You need to work it with your 1s. You need to work it with you don't have to work it with your 2s. You need to work it with your next man up. So who's your next, if you've got 3 safeties, who's the 4th safety? That's the one. Yeah, everybody might need some work on it because you might have to get to your fifth safety, but the reality is you have three safeties out there. Somebody better be able to make the call. Like, somebody better be in charge and the other two just need to work it, that kind of thing. But who's the third corner, who's the third linebacker, who's your, maybe you have a second defensive line rotation, whatever it is. Everybody on the team doesn't have to know it because the reality is they're not all going to get meaningful snaps and that kind of stuff. But you need to get work on those alignment adjustment periods. It needs to be worked into your practice time. It's a great pre-practice thing. It's a great way to use pre-practice, especially late in the year, playoff time, when you don't really need to spend a lot of time doing, rip drill or tackling or turnover, that kind of stuff. It's not bad, but, you could cut that to 5 minutes and spend a 5-minute alignment period or something. Just make sure that you're getting that alignment work. Get a lot of it on Thursday. I would not do any team on Thursday, assuming you play on Friday. I would just do alignment adjustment on Thursday. I would just do alignment adjustments on pregame. And I say that I wouldn't show all of your alignment adjustments in the pregame on the field where everybody's there, but we usually have a walkthrough at like after team meal type of thing to get moving. And so that's when I would make sure that we have a full alignment adjustment period, go over everything, talk through it. So that's number one. You need to work this into your practice plan. It is more important. Remember that ultimately we want to make these adjustments so we get back to base. So if I can just run a bunch of base stuff, I don't need to spend. So this is where I'm going to have to spend. So this is another, they're complex. You need to be simple. Not only because I think it puts you in an advantage because you're going to line up and play, but also you're going to be spending an alignment adjustment period. You don't have a special blitz period, right? You don't have all that time, because I still think you should stay 90 minutes on the field. But the other thing that we do, we really should get this up somewhere where people can get it. I'll figure that out. Maybe I'll have an answer next time. When I went and I did an on-field install with Mike Carter, who's been on the podcast up in Bloomfield, New Jersey. They're headed for the playoffs this year, by the way. So I think they were 3-7 last year. Now they're running the pistol power offense system this year, and Mike told me they're headed for the playoffs now.
Yeah.
So another win for pistol power offense. The part of that, we did a 4.25 install there, and one of the things that I did was, I was like, told Mike, I've never done this. And he asked on the first day about it. And then I sat in the hotel room that night and wrote this up. And I was like, okay, I want to install this with them, because I have all these things I tell kids, but I've never installed it as a system. And I went through about 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and went through each position and went through, this is what I want you to look for pre-snap and communicate. And so, for example, the defensive tackles, we talked about a pig and a ram. If the guard's heavy on the hand, he's a ram, it's a run. If the guard's, up light on his hand, it's a pig, which is either a pass or a pull. So like that's a communication that they can do. The linebackers, the Mike linebacker is responsible for looking for unbalance. So his job is to find the middle of the 5 fat guys. No offense. And I've had plenty of offensive lines where we only had 1 or 2 fat guys. But the middle of the 5 ineligible numbers, okay, it's not the guy with the ball. So I need you to check, are there 3 guys to the right of the center with ineligible numbers? Are there 2 guys? Are there 1 guy? Really, that's basically what you can do in most situations. You can just count, to your side, are there 2 guys next to the center that have ineligible numbers? Are there 3 guys? So you got to teach them what an ineligible number is, 50 to 79. Are there 2 guys? Are there 3 guys? Is there 1 guy? And if it is, you've got to say unbalanced. You've got to tell it to stay unbalanced, and you call out who the center is, who's the center of the 5 fat guys, and we got to adjust our alignment to that. We got to work that. The will backer has 1 job, and this is the 4.25 system, by the way. The will backer has 1 job. And again, the will backer pops up. The Mike backer looks for tendency formations as well, once he makes sure it's not unbalanced, and he communicates that. He communicates the call, make sure everybody in the front's got the call, because defensive linemen are a train wreck up there. They need to get up and look for the call, but I need my linebacker to be able to help them out sometimes, because they're in piles and they're big guys and it's tough to get up and they're tired. So I want them to communicate the call with everybody on the front. The will linebacker's job is to look for a tight end. First thing he does is look for, we talked about, he looks for and he looks for a tight end. And then we have different things for each position, right? Different things that each position is looking for. The free safety is running the secondary, so he's looking for 3-by-1, and so the corners are checking splits and the safeties are checking. So everybody has a job to look for. The ends have a job to look for, a thing to look for. Everybody has something to look for, and I'll see if I can get that. The sound quality isn't phenomenal. It was a very windy day, and I didn't have my sound equipment there, but the if you're a football coach, like this isn't cinema, right? If you want it, you'll suffer through. I think the video is only like 8.5 minutes after we edit it. But everybody has a thing to look for and a thing to call. So we've got guys looking for unbalance. And in that, we are also knowing at any time if I get this. And so when I get motion, things change. So when I get motion, it goes, so like if they motion across, the free safety is now looking for what? He's looking for 3-by-1. So if there's motion coming across, he's saying, as soon as I know, and we have, so this is a really simple rule that we have, because everybody says, when do we check it? If we don't pay attention to backfield, when do we make that check? Like you talk about jet sweep, we don't check. We don't have a check to jet sweep. The free safety will slide a little bit, but we don't have a check to jet sweep. The free safety is already in position to play both alleys. So if he's not in a position to play both alleys, then maybe I have to make a big adjustment. But if he's already in a position to play the alley, slide a little bit because the formation is changing, but you're still just splitting the number 2 receivers until he becomes the number 3 receiver. And so he's in position the whole way. And so he doesn't make that call, check roll, check your cover 3 check or your trips check until he knows that guy is going to get out of the box before the snap. So that's just a really simple rule. Like if he's jetting across and, once he passes, if he's at full gallop past the guard and the quarterback hasn't, snapped the ball, then okay, it's time to check it. But if he's behind the tackle just coming in the backfield, like don't check it. They're about to snap it.
Use once he's crossed the center or
sure.
There's
if he passes,
then the guy goes by and then orbits and comes back around, and you're like, well, crap, what do we do now? So yeah, using common sense. What are their tendencies, right?
Yeah,
so
and
it becomes a weekly thing too.
Yeah, like we do that with the orbit motion, and it's like I want you to go out there and we don't call it not orbit, hard motion, have ham return. So it's H across return. And he's got to go over there and look like he's staying over there and then come back because we want you to check and slide back. And so we have to have a rule for when that actually matters to us. Like as far as I'm concerned, that H sliding over, if he jogs over and he never turns his shoulders, he's not in a position to block me. So who cares? So when is he actually set up where he could actually down block me? Right. When does he set up where he could actually, now he can run a route, so maybe the secondary checks it, but the front doesn't need to check anything. That's the kind of stuff that we look for in that, like, but yeah, everybody has to have something that they're looking for. The thing I hate on defense is silence, just silence in general.
For sure.
I always tell, but what I realized after a while was we're upset that they're silent, but we don't tell them what to say. And so if we tell them what to say, then we can get on them for being silent. Like, are you kidding me? This guy checked over here and you didn't holler out check roll, But the smarter and more vocal defenders, I will always talk to them about say something every single play. Because the funniest thing is how the offense reacts. Like if every single time, it's hilarious. Like if they just yell, 2's on the right, 2's on the right, 2's on the right. They're like, oh God, they know that I'm on the right. They know we're going to run. They're calling out because they know it. Oh no. And it's like, it's the most amazing thing. They cover to the side. They're like, coach, they know our plays. Like, what are they saying? It's like, they're saying 2's on the right. And it's like, is he on the right? They're like, yeah. Like, okay. But the kids are freaking out.
For sure.
Like, and so like, I always want them to go, I want them to like, I've had a couple kids that were really smart and really, really like kind of jerks, kind of little pricks, and they would just yell out like some kid who has a sloppy stance, and they'd be like, 56 looks like he's pulling, 56 is sitting back or something like that. And it's like 56 is like, oh God, my stance is terrible. Like coach told me to fix it.
I always think back to my second year coaching, and I yelled out to the defense, and just kind of going back on that, you can get kids to do dumb stuff if you just talk to them, meaning defense talk to offense. But I yelled out to my defense, watch jet sweep. The formation they were in, it was a good jet sweep formation. The one guy on one side was off the ball. I was like, oh, he freaked out. Oh my God, they know the play.
Yeah.
Right. And I was like,
yeah.
wow,
I
dude.
hate when coaches do the
Appreciate it.
like, I hate when, yeah, I hate when coaches do the watch the screen, watch the pass, watch everything. But yeah, it is funny what you can. I always like the players to handle that stuff.
But he, instead of completing a full jet sweep, he got it, put his foot in the ground, and tried to counter it back to the same side. So he corrected it in his head, but my defensive guys didn't care. Like, once again, we just played base. So, like, cool, you ran right back into a force guy that your team isn't blocking, and he lost a couple of yards. So it's like you never know what they're going to do if you just talk about them, right? Hey, those guys are stacked. Watch GH counter. And the kid may be like, well, I'm going to bounce it outside backside. Like, because so you get them.
Yeah, that's all. A lot of our communication is based off of that, with like, especially with the pig and the ram call. The corners have a lot of that because they're looking at alignment, and so like, they're out there. But there's also, there's other stuff that you can do. Like long snappers are the best, and I got this from Chris Rubio from Rubio Long Snapping and Rubio. So here's a bonus long snapper, because I don't know when we're going to have a chance to do a long snapper episode. Is make sure that you know every bad snap that kid has had, and that you have somebody lined up near him reminding him of them. Like, you're going to put this one over his head like you did against Central last week. And it's like, you just put that thought into his head. Like, I mean, that's kind of the, it's gamesmanship, and it's a little bit, mean to a kid, but hey, look, that's game. It's part of the game.
Couple things you have to watch out for here. Situational adjustments. Just to give you a real life story. A few weeks ago, we're in the red zone, and I'm talking like goal line. I mean, we're inside the 10. They're trying to score. We call man. We're tuning them up with a blitz. Our safety checks to cover 3, and they hit like a little baby seam route, and no one covers him because the guy over the top hadn't rolled over there yet. The guy sitting over the route rolled into the flats, and they just boop. I mean, just it was. So you've got to make sure you're telling your guys, like, are we switching? If I call man with a purpose, are we getting out of that? When do we actually cancel a blitz? You've got to let them know the fundamentals here. Look, if you're at the 20 and they're trying to get out of their shadow of their own goalpost, it probably doesn't matter as much. Now, maybe you're trying to take away a certain player that week, and so you've got him doubled up. And now by formation, you should switch to a base cover 3. That also you need to communicate. Just situational football. It doesn't stop just because you have automatic checks built in. That doesn't take away. You're putting a lot on the players with these automatic checks and all this shifting and communicating. So make sure you arm them with all the tools they need. The other ones.
I was going to go ahead. Yeah.
Multiple shifts in the same shift. So something we do a lot of, and we're seeing it right now, is I want you to see my tight end and wing trade over, but what you didn't see was my quarterback and T swapped sides, and now it's direct snap or whatever, right? There's a lot of things going on. We use some where everybody starts within the tackles. So I have 11 guys, and then we separate real fast out and try to usually run screen, but 3x2, 4x1, whatever it is. You're busy with the motion and trying to make check calls, but you never counted to see who went where. And we'll use that time to get an unbalanced. We'll bring a tackle over at the same time. So you're counting receivers. Oh God, it's quads. But we really just moved a tackle over, and we're just trying to run outside zone to that, or power, or whatever we're wanting to do. So you have to train their eyes to see everything. Joe, I love, because you went in depth before I said anything about everyone has a job.
Great.
Who's still spotting the stinking O-line? Who's worried about, is the quarterback still at the right depth? Did he bail? Did he go out with the receivers? There's so much you have to see. You don't look, day one, you're not going to see it all, right? Even as a coach, maybe you need to go Google that kind of film and figure out, hey, can I see some stuff and build an install plan out of it? But get the fundamental stuff knocked out quick. But understand that it's a very busy world. And if your complete system doesn't have it all and you're trying to make up stuff on the fly, you're going to be hurting. Kind of tying that back into the first point. You better have a complete system.
Yeah. And just on that, well, 2 things. One is, you're right. You're not going to be able to see it all. You're not going to have to prepare for it all. And if you try to tell them everything, you may not get the basic stuff right. So start with the stuff that you know you're going to see. And then a lot of it becomes teachable moments from there. It's like,
For sure.
and you hope that some team that isn't, that you're able to handle shows it to you early so that, 2 weeks later, when a team that's in a really, really close game shows it to you, that you've seen it and they know what to do. But I was going to add in one more situation is quarterback sneak situations. If you do any sort of, like let's say that they trade and you shift your whole defensive line with the trade, just as an example. It's like, well, while you're shifting your whole defensive line and they're getting your hand back down, 1,001, go. And they're efficient. So that's stuff where you need to be like, yeah, okay, look, this is a quarterback under center. They need a half a yard. Don't go anywhere, kind of stuff. That's like those are the kinds of situations where you've got to make a decision. Like, we're just going to be overloaded over there. It's like,
yeah, for sure. Sweet, man. I think we checked all the boxes tonight. So that will be it for this one. It's your turn, coaches. If you're listening, if this helped you think differently, coach better, or just get fired up for this week, please do send it to someone else that kind of needs that same spark. Whatever, any of those things it is. Some of these episodes have made me think different. Most of these episodes have made me think different about football just in general. Just 3-by-1 is an unbalanced formation. I never would have thought about it that way without something as ridiculous as a podcast episode. So please do send it out if it helped you think differently at all. Tonight, we talked about simplifying defensive shifts, complete defensive system, making sure that it contains everything, how to install your adjustments, kind of that timeline and what all you need to really cover, and then drilling players to communicate that adjustment along with some situational stuff and where their eyes go, who's watching what, who's calling what. Last week's topic was how to coach your team to handle adversity. Next week, we're on to our team lacks leadership on the field. So that should be a really good one, getting back into that leadership mentality. But now it is time for our level up. Joe, I will let you start, sir.
I had to go back and look at my last week because I do write all this stuff down. We had some cool stuff this week, but I feel like I do. My son went trick-or-treating really for the first time, getting out there and going all the houses, spent like an hour and a half out there. I came home to give out candy, which no kids came. So I was like, forget this next. We're not on the main route, I guess. We are 2 houses off of the main route. But no, we did an offer last week, and it actually, I think, closed before we did the podcast, or maybe the day that we did the podcast. But we did our Boys of Fall offer, which was a really cool offer. And if you missed it, I'm sure someday we'll have something like that again. But we brought in 37 new coaches to JDFB with that offer. We had a good number of them. We had about 6 or 7 of them that were on our Monday night Chalk Talk Q&A, our last one for the year, which was just like new faces asking great questions and situations that, obviously not being in the JDFB system, they're asking questions and we're applying the JDFB rules to their team that's in week 9, week 10, playoffs round 1, playoffs going in round 2, and applying the things that we do to their defense as it exists right now, how to practice plan, how to make adjustments right now with what you have right now. That's going to impact even coaches, impact even coaches who just came into JDFB, just came into the system, and being able to provide that. And it's really fun to work with new coaches who come in with an open mind. And so that bringing in so many coaches at once. Now it's tough because, like I said, I ran down all the things that we do. I do, every single new coach gets kickoff diagnostic. They get a personalized video from me. I answer questions. You get some things that are sent out in the mail. We do the one-on-one coach call. So bringing in 37 coaches at once, they won't all stick because it's not for everybody. But bringing in 37 new coaches at once is tough on me, but it is a lot of fun to see all these new coaches and hear what they're doing and hear their ideas. And just, I've done it thousands of times, but you still see it and you go, oh my gosh, I know what you need. Like this is what you need. I know exactly what you need. And for the coaches who are receptive to that, it is exciting because, like, this is, if you take to this right now, next year is going to be different, or maybe this week is going to be different depending on where they're at.
Yeah, it is really neat to see the influx there. And I think mainly because you have a system and you're kind of watching things go through it. And like you said, you already know what they need, but that's really neat. It's like putting coins in a coin sorter. Like I know the quarters are all going to go together and the dimes, but you throw a lump sum of coaches and like, oh, we're going to sort all these guys out and watch the system work, and we're going to help them all at the same time, right? With what they need. I just think that's
and part of it is like you said, we can say this is what you need, but then it's who's going to go full on, who's going to just buy in, who's going to try to, this is a mistake by the way, but who's going to try to pull a little bit from here and a little bit from there and a little bit from this and a little bit from that, instead of buying into one thing and then letting it develop over time.
Yeah.
Who's going to, some people will just say that's not for me, and that's okay. So it's just always interesting to see how it plays out. And I love the coaches who come in and are just fully, even if it's not necessarily fully installing everything, but just ready to learn and soak up these ideas. But again, like just seeing it now, like just light up when you see it. You see the record and you see the words that they use to describe their situation, or low football IQ, low numbers, we didn't execute, we have all this kind of stuff. And you see all these words and you see this perfect, like, this is what we do. You were in the right place. And it's exciting. Hopefully the ones, especially for the ones that are going to feel like they're going to stick it out.
Yeah. I kind of have a twofer, maybe even a threefer. First of all, I'd say I've been doing the game film analysis for Joe last 2 years. Threefer. The coolest moment this week for game film analysis was I got to do an Oklahoma team, and I don't want to put them out there because I don't.
Yeah.
Could or may not cause any issues. I don't know, but it was so neat to watch Oklahoma teams in district play, and they're doing a game film analysis. So, Coach, if you're listening, man, that was super cool. Please keep sending your film. I thought it was so neat, and they executed amazingly. I mean, that's one of those where you're like, I can give you some stuff, but he communicated very, very well back with like, hey, the stuff you corrected is part of the system because of this. So it was really good communication.
Yeah.
That's a small part. Two, I have to talk about, we talk about resiliency a lot on the podcast, and having resiliency, mental resiliency, kind of that mental intelligence. We went to and I'm totally going to trash this guy, and I don't care. I'll never meet him again in my life probably, but we went to a trunk or treat with the food truck this past weekend and on Saturday night, and we got invited. It's something that I've noticed happens quite a bit, these events. I have to this one I didn't, but generally you have to pay a fee to be there so that you can sell food to people. Okay. This one was free, but still I showed up and there was like 6 trucks, which already is pretty diluted waters, right? And then they also offered free food. So it's like, why you as the host, why would you offer free food and bring in people to sell their food? Luckily, the free food was just classic hot dogs, and I sell way better, so I still made some money. Not a ton. Could have done better probably, but that's kind of how I looked at it. It was like, this could have been better, but I didn't make zero, and I kind of have fun doing it. I still enjoy the job, so it wasn't that big a deal. I know why this guy was so mad. They brought a hot dog cart who charged for hot dogs to an event where they gave away hot dogs for free. He was furious, but he lost his mind, man, just like belligerently over the top. And I just saw so many people from my past of that certain, I don't know if it's generational thing or whatever, where he could just cuss as many words he could say, and it made him feel more powerful. And he was just so upset. And I thought, man, I'm so glad that's not me. I'm so glad I have been taught and trained and practiced. Take it with a grain of salt and move on. Tomorrow will be better, because it doesn't matter how bad it is. You are going to be worse off by losing your cool that bad, right? You're never going to be the one that wins that situation. So keep practicing resiliency, coaches. It doesn't matter if it's I've been doing a ton of stuff with Mike D, the referee. He's even admitted multiple times, if you just lose your crap on the sideline, you're definitely not going to improve the situation. You got to learn to communicate. You have to learn. We were, maybe some of the other coaches were kind of getting into the line judge this past weekend, and I came down from the box and I was like, hey, brother, this is happening to our player over there. I don't mean to tell you how to do your job. And he's like, no, that's absolutely a great way to communicate with me, to complain about a missed call. Sweet. So, I mean, there's ways to talk. Anyway, have some resiliency. Last little piece. Everybody knows I'm a deer hunter. The last minute, and this goes back to just patience. I spent, I don't know how many hours and how much money and time, and I already said hours, time, same thing, energy, equipment, fuel, blah, 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 putting in a food plot this year. Got some news from National Guard. I may not be here for rifle season. So I'm sitting in my deer stand. Same thing, a little resiliency, like, dang it. Spent all this effort and I might be busy with the guard and I not get to use this for rifle season. So it's black powder. We just ended our muzzle loader season. So I got to go like 3 days because it's only 9 days anyway. And I was super busy on a bunch of other ones. My kid went with me on one evening. And so, generally you're not going to be successful when they're there because they're just noisy and he wanted to look out the blind and wave at the squirrels and right. Okay. So like the last day was Sunday. We talked earlier last week about how I like to just kind of listen to the woods, go to sleep. I'm there when it wakes up. I'm there when it goes to sleep, not spotlighting, Joe. And so I kind of did the same thing. And man, I was so ready to go. There's like an hour of sunlight left. I'd given up hope. And I was like, you know what? I'll just sit here. I'll just sit until sun goes down. I don't care. Like it's fine. I don't got anything else to do. And within the last like 3 minutes of shooting light, a 20-point buck walked out.
Good Lord.
Yes. He hit a scrape with his paws, did his peeing in the floor thing, looked up, licked a branch, and then I blew his heart up. So it was perfect. You couldn't draw it up any better than like that last minute, last day. If the sun goes down anymore, I'm screwed, and I'm probably not going to get a deer this year. And he just walked out. So just that patience to stay in the stand and the setup. I don't know if the food plot worked as much as I wanted this year so far. And I still may get to hunt rifle. So I kind of felt bad about shooting him later. I mean, he was a gorgeous animal. I'm glad I got him, but I kind of wanted to keep hunting him the archery and rifle too. But anyway, we'll see. Luckily, I'm not a 1-buck state, so I can still kill another one if it comes out. So then I had to recover him out of a ravine that's stupid deep, used a 4-wheeler, about rolled it on myself, got him into the processor 30 minutes after they closed, a whole thing. But the kids loved it. It was very enjoyable for them to go recover him and do all that. So hunting is amazing, and my efforts paid off. So there you go. Be patient in the blind.
Nice. Congratulations.
Thank you. Let's pay the bills one more time and get out of here.
I want one thing about the resiliency, because I had a coach that came up with this, and I thought I would just mention it because I know a lot of coaches have been in this situation. I had a coach who emailed about a situation where he was really legitimately concerned that there might be the coaching staff has reached a boiling point with each other, and the same kind of thing is like, we've had this conversation before, and I was like, you control what you control. The only thing you can do is not lose your composure. But the other thing you can do is have that adult conversation before it happens. Listen, I think wasn't the head coach, right? Go to the head coach. I'm concerned about where this thing is going. Can we either air it out right now before we get out there, or is it best if I'm just out on the sidelines? Because the thing that matters more than anything is the kids.
Yes.
And so adult conversation. So I know that especially if we get late in the year, there's some things going on with animosity, but the resilience you talked about, and just, the idea of like, okay, this is getting pissed off on the sidelines, screaming, yelling, and it happens all the time between coaching staffs is not a good thing. And like, it is much better to try to air that out beforehand or just control what you control. Same thing true with the officials, but I just want to bring that up because maybe somebody else is in that situation. I've been in that situation. It sucks.
For sure.
My answer is always like, can I just go open the box? Like, I don't, you guys do whatever. I'm just going to open the box because I'm not messing with this crap. Yeah, it's ridiculous. To me, it's ridiculous, but yeah, check out JDFB, go to JoeDanielFootball.com and get the free guide on building your ultimate defensive system. We've already talked quite a bit about that. You've got to have all these things in place. We've got that free guide, how to build your ultimate defensive football system. Go to JoeDanielFootball.com/system to get it. We've got other guides there we've got a guide on breaking the losing cycle. So if your team has been stuck in that losing cycle for a couple of years or more, and next year things have got to change. Maybe you're feeling the hot seat. Maybe you've just had enough yourself. Maybe you're your alma mater and you want to change something that you played through. It's been that way forever. Check out Breaking the Losing Cycle. We've had a bunch of coaches this year that have done that. And we've had some great wins on our chalkboard forum where, our chalkboard community coaches have been posting their weekly wins up there. Just some cool stuff. Guys winning, we coach winning a rivalry game for the first time in 22 years, 2003. Stuff like that we had a coach took over a program his first year as a head coach, and I think they were 1-9. They've been terrible. We've had some great stuff. So this stuff works. Check out that free guide on breaking the losing cycle. We've got a guide on practice planning. You can get our practice plan templates, and also that guide on how to make your football team fast. That'll be up soon as well. So come on over to JDFBfootball.com. Check those out.
Talk to me about opening and closing sales. What's coming around? This will be out next week, I believe.
As the day of this comes out, this is your last chance to get JDFB Weight Room, which is our weight football strength training program that combines explosive lifting, explosive strength to create maximum power output, and then also has a fantastic injury component. We've seen, I can't sit here and claim this prevents injuries, but we've just coach after coach has said man, we had fewer injuries. We had, because that's a built-in component that Chris Lawyer, who is a strength coaching, that's what he does. He's not a football coach. He's my weightlifting coach. He's coached athletes in every sport. He's worked with strength training coach. He's just, you want somebody that's an expert. I don't think that football coaches should be coming up with the strength training program, because we just don't have enough hours in our life to be an expert at everything. Same with speed, same with everything. I have that same belief about fundraising, by the way. And so we're working on something for that too. So JDFB Weight Room closes on Friday, the 14th, and that'll be the last chance to get 2025 pricing, just the way, we're like everybody else. And then at the end of the month, Black Friday weekend, we will have the Football Coaching 101 series, Football Coaching 101, Football Coaching Mastery, and the Coordinator Masterclass. That series, which is basically a massive, it's essentially a semester of football coaching. It's a football coaching education. It is the things that Football Coaching 101 is the things that I think every football coach should know before you touch the field, but most don't. Football Coaching Mastery is what I think every football coach should know after 1 year. And I created this because this was the stuff that I wanted my assistant coaches to know when I was a head coach, that I wanted them to know at the end of 1 year under my tutelage. But I was so caught up in all of the things that we have to do as football coaches, as head football coaches, the fundraising, all that sort of stuff, that it didn't happen. And so I created this to make sure that wouldn't happen again. And then Coordinator Masterclass, most coaches don't know that stuff in Football Coaching Mastery for at least 5 or 10 years at best. And then Coordinator Masterclass is what I think every football coach needs to know before you get the headset. And again, most don't. So it is basically from the first moment that you step on the field to the time that you get to start being the play caller. It is the full, everything from core principles to breaking down a play, building a playbook, calling plays, how to call plays in the game, how to organize practices, how to organize your staff on game day. Everything goes all the way through Coordinator Masterclass. So it's an awesome series, and it's going to be open just for that Black Friday weekend.
Love it.
Special that weekend. Yeah.
Get in and get it, guys. That'd be the best way to get it all. And it's a program worth having. Social media wise, I'm at Coach Chambo OK on Twitter/X. You can email me at chamberlainfootballconsulting@gmail.com. And tell me your stories. Tell me about what you like on the podcast, what you're listening to. I get quite a few guys doing that already. I love to read it. It makes it really neat for me. And then check out the YouTube. Joe, where are you at, sir?
I am on Facebook, facebook.com/JoeDanielFootball, Twitter @FootballInfo, Instagram @JoeDanielFootball. Has clips of the podcast and stuff. And I think TikTok too is @JoeDanielFootball, has clips of the podcast. But the Facebook has a little more activity going on. And I am at least checking my Twitter now. So I'm slowly moving back into the or X or whatever. But mainly JoeDanielFootball.com is where you will find blog posts, free guides, podcasts, everything.
Perfect. We are at the FBCP on Twitter. If this is your first time listening to the Football Coaching Podcast, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. You can find us on your favorite podcatcher, primarily Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You've been listening for a while. Please leave a review, especially on Apple Podcasts. That's where we draw most of our attention, most of our downloads. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Football Coaching Podcast. And as it says on the bottom of the screen correctly now, coach simple, play fast, win.